I spent 6 years of my life convinced that if I did not have a barbell on my back or a pair of 100-pound dumbbells in my hands, I was shrinking. I was that guy who tracked every gram of protein and never missed a Monday chest day, living for the clank of iron and the smell of a commercial gym. But then I did the unthinkable. I canceled my gym membership, stopped lifting weights entirely, and spent the next year hanging from pull-up bars and doing push-ups in my living room. Everyone told me I was going to lose all my gains. My friends joked that I would turn into a skinny marathon runner and that my hard-earned muscle would just evaporate into thin air. But what actually happened to my body, my strength, and specifically my muscle density, was something I never saw coming and is probably the exact opposite of what you've been told by the fitness industry. Before we get into the physical changes, I need to tell you about the moment everything shifted. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was in the middle of my usual heavy bench press session. I had 3 plates on each side, my chest was pumped, and I felt strong, or at least I thought I was strong. A guy who looked half my size walked over to the pull-up station nearby and started doing these effortless, slow-motion muscle-ups. He moved his body with a level of control that I realized I did not possess. I could push 300 pounds away from my chest while lying on a padded bench, but if you asked me to pull my own chin over a bar with that same level of grace, I would struggle. That realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I had built a body that was great at moving external objects in a controlled environment, but I was a stranger to my own weight. That was the day I decided to quit the gym. I wanted to see if I could maintain the muscle mass I had built with iron using nothing but gravity and my own limbs. But there's a huge trap most people fall into when they make this switch, and if I hadn't figured it out in the first 2 weeks, I probably would have crawled back to the squat rack within a month. The first thing that happens when you quit the gym for calisthenics is a massive blow to your ego. For the first few years of lifting, you equate progress with numbers on a plate. When those plates are gone, how do you measure success? In my first week of bodyweight training, I realized that while I was gym strong, I lacked relative strength. I could deadlift 500 pounds, but I couldn't hold a proper L-sit for more than 5 seconds. My core was weak, my stabilizers were non-existent, and my joints felt stiff. This is the first pattern interrupt you experience. You think you're fit until you try to master a movement rather than a weight. I felt small. Without the constant sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, that temporary swelling of the muscles you get from high-volume isolation moves, I felt like I was shrinking. But here's the secret. I wasn't losing muscle fibers, I was losing the fluff. 1 month into the journey, the transformation began to take a turn. In the gym, we often train muscles in isolation. We do bicep curls, leg extensions, and pec flies. Calisthenics forces your body to work as a single, integrated unit. When you do a simple push-up, your chest, shoulders, triceps, core, glutes, and even your quads are engaged to maintain a straight line. Because of this, I started noticing a level of muscle hardness that I never had when I was just lifting weights. My midsection started to look like it was carved out of granite because every single exercise I did was in essence a core exercise. But I know what you're thinking because I was thinking it too. What about the legs? The biggest criticism of calisthenics is that you can't build big legs with heavy squats and deadlifts, and for a while I believed that. I was terrified of getting chicken legs. I had to get creative. I started mastering the pistol squat, the sissy squat, and the Nordic hamstring curl. It turns out that while it's much harder to build massive tree trunk thighs with just body weight, the functional strength and explosiveness I gained in my lower body were light years ahead of where I was with the barbell. The muscle I did have on my legs became extremely dense and defined. About 3 months in, I hit a wall. I was getting bored of just doing more reps. This is where most people quit calisthenics and head back to the gym. They think that because they can do 50 push-ups, they've reached the end of the road. But the beauty of calisthenics isn't in the reps, it's in the progressions. I moved from regular push-ups to archer push-ups, then to pseudo-planche push-ups, and eventually toward the holy grail, the handstand push-up. This shift from endurance to skill-based strength is where the real muscle growth happened. To perform a handstand push-up, your shoulders have to support your entire body weight. For me, that was 200 pounds. Suddenly, I was doing the equivalent of a 200-pound overhead press with the added requirement of balancing in space. My deltoids exploded in size, becoming more capped and rounded than they ever were during my gym days. Now let's talk about the aesthetic change. If you look at a high-level calisthenics athlete versus a bodybuilder, the look is fundamentally different. Gym muscles often look heavy and full. Calisthenics muscles look tight and functional. 6 months into my journey, I weighed about 5 pounds less than I did when I was lifting heavy weights, but I looked significantly more muscular in the mirror. My vascularity increased, and the taper of my back became much more pronounced because pull-ups and chin-ups are the ultimate lat builders. I stopped looking like a guy who just lifted weights and started looking like an athlete. But the biggest surprise wasn't the mirror, it was my joints. Years of heavy benching and squatting had left me with a constant dull ache in my shoulders and knees. I thought that was just the price you paid for being strong. Within 90 days of quitting the gym, those aches vanished. Because calisthenics movements follow natural human movement patterns and focus heavily on tendon strength, my body started to feel bulletproof. I felt light, agile, and for the first time in my life, I was actually flexible. It's a strange feeling to be able to touch your toes and also do a set of weighted pull-ups with 2 plates hanging from your waist. That's the rehook I want you to understand. You don't have to choose between being big and being mobile. You can have both, but the gym often sacrifices the latter for the former. Halfway through the year, I noticed something interesting about my mental state. The gym used to be a source of stress for me. I had to pack a bag, drive through traffic, wait for equipment, and deal with the ego-driven atmosphere of a commercial weight room. With calisthenics, the world became my playground. I could work out in a park, in my hotel room, or in my backyard. This freedom removed the friction of working out. I never missed a session because there was no excuse. This consistency is the real reason I saw such incredible results. Muscle is built through tension and consistency over time, and calisthenics made it easier to provide both. But let's get real for a second. If your goal is to be a 300-pound mass monster, calisthenics is not the path for you. There's a limit to how much raw mass you can put on when you're limited by your own weight. However, if your goal is to have a lean, powerful, and highly capable physique that looks good in a t-shirt and even better without one, bodyweight training is the most efficient way to get there. So what happened to my muscles? They didn't disappear, they evolved. They became denser, more coordinated, and more useful. I traded the puffy look of a lifter for the sharp look of a gymnast. My bench press might have dropped a few pounds, but my ability to control my body in space reached a level I never thought possible. If you're feeling burnt out by the gym, or if you feel like you're just moving weights for the sake of moving weights, I challenge you to try this. Put down the dumbbells for 30 days. Focus on the basics, the pull-up, the dip, the squat, and the push-up. Master the movement, not the weight. You might find that the best gym you ever had was the one you were born with. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to unlock your body's full potential. I'll see you in the next one.